pleased to introduce Emily Hugan from Vanderbilt University. And Emily came to our attention as the Vanderbilt student newspaper mentioned the awesome thing she was doing with GroupMe on our campus, and I wanted to invite her to speak as it's a really interesting case study. Emily, let me know if you have any issues presenting.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Actually, I'm just going to go and be preemptive. Do you mind going ahead and presenting the slide for me?
Okay.
So, thanks.
Yeah, let me bring it up. Feel free to start talking.
Yeah.
While I get that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Hugan. Thank you guys so much for inviting me today. I'm a recent graduate of Vanderbilt University, just graduated back in May, so anchor down. I'm sorry if anybody here is at Wake Forest. I am a Vanderbilt fan, so we're playing Wake Forest in football today. You are my enemy. It is just happening. I am a software engineer here in Chicago now. I use GroupMe mainly back in 2020, and once we get the PowerPoint up, I'd be glad to share about my experiences with GroupMe over the last 2 years. All right. You can go to the next slide for me. I kind of introduced myself a little bit. So again, I'm a software engineer here in Chicago. I'm working at Capital One. Just started a couple weeks ago, so really excited. I'm a recent graduate of Vanderbilt in computer science. You can go to the next slide. So what are we and kind of the group timeline? Reuse Vandy is a very simple concept. I wanted to reuse items that we have on campus. So just a little bit of a timeline. It started back in August 2020. It was very interesting time on campus at that point because we were going to actually have in-person classes back at Vanderbilt despite the pandemic. But there were many students who were moving off campus. And then all of the first years were going to have singles in their rooms. So no sharing of items. So there are many people who suddenly didn't need their fridges, didn't need their microwaves because they were moving into an apartment. And then suddenly there was twice as many first years who needed those items in their own rooms. And so starting this GroupMe was actually very organic. It just came from a need. I was in an organization, GroupMe, who said, hey, does anybody want my fridge? I'm selling it. I don't really want to throw it away. And I said, yeah, I know a bunch of freshmen because I was actually in a different GroupMe that was answering questions for freshmen. And so I was like, why don't I just make this group chat like temporary for the next like month, that for move-in, that we have people to sell their items or give away their items to people who need it instead of it going into the dump, because I didn't really like the fact that you could go buy the dumpsters by the first year or at the end of the year and see so many good items just being thrown away. So I started this GroupMe back in August, and it completely blew up. It was completely expected to be temporary for about a month, but it grew from 600 members by December to 1,800 members in January to now 4,000 people present day. And just to give you a perspective, there are 7,000 undergraduate students, so over half of the campus is involved in this group chat. It is by far the largest group chat or GroupMe on campus. Which it didn't occur to me until like halfway through of creating it. I was like, wait a second, this is getting pretty large pretty quickly. And I think the answer to how it got pretty large pretty quickly was need. There was absolutely no advertising that I did for this GroupMe. It was purely word of mouth. People saw the need, that they wanted to buy specific things and they didn't want to buy it new. And they just asked friends, and the friends just said, hey, why don't you post in this GroupMe? So people would just post either photos or descriptions of what they're looking for, and they could message them directly to ask if they were selling or buying. So it was very organic, again, growing from 10 people to begin with to nearly 4,000 today. And so the growing it from the need was mainly because it is very easy for us to use GroupMe as opposed to other platforms, because you can just message really quickly and get a response really quickly as opposed to some other platforms. So go ahead, next slide. So in this section, I kind of wanted to show about how I branched out horizontally with the group chat as well as some failures. So Reuse Vandy is the OG chat. It was the one that I created in August. And about 4 months later, I've noticed that there were a lot of people posting clothing specifically in the group chat. And it felt like it was spamming a lot of people, and people weren't as interested in using it because there were so many people posting photos of wardrobe items. And so I made a new chat. I put in a new survey. I asked everyone who was in it. At this point, there were like nearly 800 people in it. I said, hey, do you want this chat to be created? And it was an overwhelming yes. So I created Reuse Wardrobe Vandy soon after. And so most people were posting their wardrobe items in there. It was highly, highly successful. Many, many people use that. I think that's over 2,000 people now in Reuse Wardrobe Vandy. And then over time, since the numbers of Reuse Vandy got larger and larger, people were posting, hey, has anyone seen, my phone, my ID, my keys? Even I posted there when I lost my car keys because I was desperate. Eventually I said, this is a need, and it's kind of retracting from the product, retracting from the GroupMe, and so I needed to do something different. So I put in a new survey. I said, does anybody want a lost and found group chat specifically? And so now we have over 900 people who are posting in lost and found every day. And then we have two ones that I grayed out. The first one is failures. I want to say that we made GroupMes that necessarily didn't work, and that's okay. We had reuse swipes Vandy, so we had many meal swipes at the time. So you, of course, getting food, and so we had this idea that people could reuse meal swipes for other people. And it was okay for a little bit, and then I think people just realized there wasn't the need. There wasn't the need for it. People were having no issues getting food themselves, and so it kind of tapered off over time. So I wanted to highlight the positives that we've had for this GroupMe, but also the times where you've tried something and it didn't work out, and that's okay. And then the last one is Reuse Concerts Vandy. I have a question mark next to it because it hasn't been created yet, but I've had a couple people message me to ask if they should be, or it should be created. And so that is a consideration for the future. Again, if the need arises, I think that's the biggest question is this necessary? And so those are kind of the 5 group chats that I've accumulated. They're almost like infinity stones for me. And so I would say the lessons here for a group chat of this size is the main one is managing like a macro environment. This is 4,000 people who have access to a group chat all at once. Spam can get out of control really easily. So I made sure there was many rules in our group chat to make sure that it was sticking to the purpose. And the second thing is PR for yourself. And I think that's kind of important for someone who's in charge of this GroupMe. You are very accessible to many people at that point. When we were back on campus with in-person classes and I was there and talking to people, there were people who were recognizing me because of the group chat. And there were many times in the group chat where I was trying to enforce things, where there were things not going well, or I would have to message someone who's making a disturbance. And you kind of realize, you're like, this is kind of responsibility that I have. Everything you say will be consumed by 4,000 people, will be consumed by literally thousands of people. And so that was a huge lesson for me the last 2 years, was just kind of PR control to make sure that I did the right thing and I said the right thing to everyone who's in there. And so that's kind of the conclusion of what I have. I'd love to have any questions about what happened here. I'll have to disappoint you to say that I'm not currently in charge of the GroupMe anymore. I did hand off the reins to my friend Adir Grant. He is a current junior. And so he is in charge of the GroupMe now, so I do not have access to any of the GroupMes. I officially gave it to him. But yes, thank you for this photo. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I had to screenshot this because this is how I found out about you, Emily. It's awesome. You got featured in the Vanderbilt newspaper.
Yes, I did.
Huge achievement. And it's awesome to hear the story. Basically, you became a local celebrity on the Vanderbilt campus. So
little bit, it gets weird.
I love that. So
Thank you.
definitely an interesting angle to take in terms of the GroupMe semester competition as well.